If you ever pass through the red earth path that runs between the small towns of Zuba and Garki, you would know the bend where the old baobab tree leans, casting a wide shadow that blesses travelers from the sun. Right there, under that tree, a boy called Kelechi used to sell sugarcane. Not the long sugarcane sticks you wrestle with your teeth, but neat little cuts peeled and arranged in plastic containers, cold from being stored in a tin bucket of river water. Kelechi was maybe 11 or 12. He never told anyone his real age. He had thick, curly hair and sharp eyes, the kind that looked like they had seen too much for such a young face. His dark skin glowed bronze in the morning sun, and he often wore a loose brown shirt with sleeves rolled up to his elbows, paired with shorts that had patches on the sides. His feet were calloused from walking barefoot too many days. When he had slippers, they slapped loudly with each step on the baked earth. Every morning, he walked 6 kilometers from his village, Ikani, carrying his load of sugarcane, sometimes barefoot, sometimes in rubber slippers that flapped like drums on the dirt road. The journey took him over 2 hours one way, and he often left before sunrise to get a good spot under the baobab tree. His village friends used to tease him, calling him Kelechi the sugarcane man, but deep inside, many of them admired his determination. His presence became a landmark of sorts. Turn left when you see the sugarcane boy, travelers would say. He cut and peeled the sugarcane himself, with a small, curved knife given to him by his grandfather before he died. The knife had a wooden handle smoothed by time, and Kelechi carried it wrapped in cloth like a treasure. People often pitied him. "Where are your parents?" they would ask. "You're too small to be doing this work alone." He would smile, not the shy kind of smile, but the kind that makes you feel like he knows something you don't. Then he would say, "My mama is at home. I'm only helping." What he didn't say was that his Mama Yuju, had been blind for 5 years. They lived in a small round hut made of clay and thatch, on the edge of the village, just before the cassava farms began. It was quiet there. No one came unless they were lost, and Mama Yuju rarely went anywhere since she lost her sight. Their compound had a single cooking fire, a stool carved by Kelechi himself, and an old mattress stuffed with dried grasses that creaked with every movement. They had no electricity. Their water came from a nearby stream, which Kelechi fetched daily. Their hut was surrounded by wild hibiscus and pawpaw trees, and behind it ran a footpath used only by children chasing goats and old women fetching firewood. During the dry season, the earth cracked like broken pottery, and the harmattan wind carried red dust into everything. During rainy season, the walls of the hut grew soft, and Kelechi patched them with fresh mud after every storm. People in Ikani said it was witchcraft, or karma, or punishment for marrying a man from another tribe. But Kelechi never believed any of that. All he knew was that his mother loved him, sang to him even when there was no food, and told him stories of stars and rivers and warriors from the old days. So when her eyes went white and her steps uncertain, Kelechi became her eyes, and more than that, he became her student. You see, Mama Yuji used to be a school teacher in the nearby town of Jikoi before her sight failed. She loved books, even after she went blind. She made Kelechi read to her every evening after he returned from selling sugarcane. She kept old books stacked on a small wooden shelf Kelechi made. The spines were cracked, the pages yellowed, but they were treasures to her. But there was a secret to it all. Kelechi couldn't read, not properly. He had never been to real school. Just a few weeks at the village center before his mama's condition worsened. So how did he read to a former teacher? He taught himself every day. After selling his sugarcane, he would stop by the waste bin behind the market square in Zuba. Traders tossed out old newspapers and torn pages from expired textbooks. Kelechi would collect these like gold. He would sit by the baobab tree and sound out the words slowly. Sometimes he would ask passing travelers to help pronounce a word. Sometimes he would guess. An old bookseller named Baba Idris once found him struggling and gave him a torn children's reader. "Take it," the old man said. "If you teach yourself with this one, I'll find you another." Every evening, he would sit by his mother, place her fingers in his hand, and trace the letters while saying the words aloud. She would correct his pronunciation with a smile. "You're teaching yourself, my son," she once said, "but you're teaching me too." He learned not only words but ideas. He learned that there were people in other parts of the world who had never seen sugarcane, who lived in places where snow fell. He learned about great people Mandela, Nkrumah, Achebe. Each name lit a fire in his chest. Kelechi began to write small notes on old paper scraps, poems, thoughts, prayers. One note read, "When my mother's eyes open, she will see I never gave up." Village life moved around him. In the mornings, the village rooster crowed from the compound across the path. Women beat fufu in wooden mortars with strong arms. Children chased after hens. On market days, the village square was full of color and clamor. Traders shouted their prices, goats bleated, and the smell of roasted maize filled the air. But Kelechi's life was a quiet drumbeat beneath all that noise. Sugarcane, reading, caring for his mother. There were hard days. Days when he returned from Zuba with empty hands and soaked clothes. Once, he slipped in the mud and injured his leg. He limped for weeks, still dragging his bucket. Another time, he was robbed by older boys who stole his sugarcane and mocked his accent. But he never stopped going. "If I stop, who will feed Mama?" One Thursday evening, as the sun turned the sky golden, something happened. A jeep pulled up beside the baobab tree. It wasn't the kind of car that stopped in places like that. It was sleek, black, and carried Lagos plates. The driver stepped out first, then a tall woman in a flowing Ankara dress. She had short hair and carried a camera. A journalist, she bought one pack of sugarcane and asked, "Did you peel this yourself?" "Yes, Auntie." "And you sit here every day?" "Yes, Auntie." She smiled and gave him an extra note. "Do you go to school?" Kelechi paused, then said, "I learn at home." The journalist looked curious. She came back the next day. This time, she followed him after work. She watched from a distance as he entered the small hut and began his lesson with Mama. Yuju, the video she made, told everything: the sugarcane, the tracing of letters, the blind mother smiling as her son read. The internet caught fire. Donations came in. From Ghana, from Kenya, even from Nigerians abroad. One message read, "This boy reminded me of my own mother. She raised 6 of us selling akara. Please help him." An NGO stepped in. A scholarship was arranged. Doctors from Enugu were contacted before the surgery. Mama Yuju held Kelechi's hand and said, "No matter what happens, I already see more through you than I ever did with my own eyes." When the bandages were removed, she wept quietly. Her first words were, "Let me see my son's eyes." She stared for a long time. "Just like your father's," she whispered. A new house was built for them. Nothing big, 2 rooms, tin roof, cement floor. But to Kelechi, it was a palace. And they painted it the color of sugarcane green. Kelechi joined school formally. He was far ahead of his age group. He read everything: science, literature, history. He once told his teacher, "I want to write a book called Learning in the Dark." He joined debates, wrote essays, and won prizes that made headlines in the state. Yet, he never stopped peeling sugarcane for the joy of it. Never stopped sitting under that baobab tree during holidays. Once, a boy asked him why. He smiled and said, "Because this tree heard all my dreams first." Years passed. Mama Yuju's sight never fully returned, but she could see well enough to walk unaided, read large print, and recognize her son from far. She joined the women's cooperative in the village and began teaching young mothers to read and write again. "If my son can do it in the dark, We can do it in the light, she would say. Kelechi later became a teacher at Ikani Community School. He insisted every classroom had a mini library, and every student had to write letters home once a week, even if no one could read them because, he said, words carry power, even if only the writer sees them. He started a program that gave scholarships to the children of widows. He called it the Uju Hope Foundation. People from other villages sent their children to Ikani, just to learn under him. Sometimes he was invited to Abuja, sometimes to Lagos. People wanted to hear his story. But no matter where he went, he always returned to his village, to his mother, to the baobab tree. He built a small library beside it, just a wooden shed with bookshelves, and a bamboo mat on the floor. Children would gather there after school. Kelechi would read to them in the evenings, his voice calm, his smile constant. They called him Oga Kelechi now, and still, on some evenings, he would sit under that same baobab tree, slicing sugarcane for passing travelers, smiling that same knowing smile. So, if you ever find yourself on that road between Zuba and Garki, and you see a man under a baobab tree, surrounded by children and books and sweet slices of sugarcane, don't just pass by, sit a while, listen, because not every hero wears shoes. Some carry sugarcane and stories and keep walking barefoot through greatness.